Well, welcome to this edition of the Black Madonna Speaks on the Heart of the Black Madonna channel. I'm your host, Stephanie Georgieff, and I'm so pleased that you've decided to spend some time with me today. Today's short video will be a video talking about my new book, The Virgin of Guadalupe, Mysterious Messenger of Destiny. And I want to talk about one of the most interesting parts that I feel is related to the miracle of Guadalupe, and it's Guadalupe and the sun. Now, one of the most interesting things, well, it's hard to say which is the most interesting, but a very interesting aspect of the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe is that she had deep symbolic meaning for both the Europeans and the natives. Now, the natives saw her in the trappings of nobility, but she also had many qualities of the Mother Earth goddess called Tonantzin. Now, in the European tradition, she had all the trappings of the Virgin of the Apocalypse that we read about in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, where behold, a woman clothed in the sun with the stars at her head. In this picture, you can't see them very well, but there's little stars all over her turquoise mantle and the moon at her feet. But what I'm most interested in is not only is she clothed in the sun, and it's an interesting word these days, and it's a very powerful image because of what the globe is going through right now, where we're being told to fear the corona. And the corona is the beaming lights from the sun. And also it's the crown. And it's the crown of divinity. So she has a corona around her, and she stands in front of the sun. Now, what you can't see in this image very well, it's below the little sash, those two little black things coming down. This black sash is the sign to the natives that she's pregnant. And below that is a special glyph, which is the center of the universe, divinity, the sun of the great spirit of the universe. So here she is, she's standing in front of the sun, and she's basically saying with her imagery and the glyphs on her dress that she's carrying the divine child of the sun in her womb. Now, this is very important, so keep all that in mind. Now, here's a modern picture of the sun, and we're learning so much about the sun these days from all kinds of different space exploration, the Hubble telescope, you name it. There's a lot of interesting things. Now, what materialistic sciences say that this is just basically this amazing cauldron of explosions, which is totally true. But the sun is also the image of deep spiritual truths. And in esoteric Christian cosmology, we see the sun as the spiritual home of the divine, the Archangel Michael, and Christ is also called the sublime being, the sun. So the sun is very, very powerful. The sun is the center of our solar system. And as we learn more and more, what we also know that you don't need with great scientific research is that all of life is dependent on the sun. Now, in ancient traditions, the sun was the planet that ruled the heart. So when we were being formed by divinity, we go through each one of the planetary systems and different organs are formed, and the sun is where our hearts are formed. And the metal gold is related to this. And in certain types of medical traditions, the application of gold or taking of gold medicinally is very healing for the heart, and it's actually something that helps alleviate depression, which I think is very interesting. But all of sun, all of the life on earth is dependent on the sun. Now, in the old days, it was thought that the earth was the center of the universe, and all the planets, including the sun, kind of made this little arc over the earth every day. And some of the reasons why this was the thought was there was this biblical verse that said, divinity, he, God, laid the foundations of the earth, so it shall not be moved forever. And so this was kind of the teachings of the day. It was the dogma of the church. And everybody took this very seriously. Now, in other traditions, in ancient Egyptian traditions, and even in, I would say, Native American traditions, this wasn't exactly how they saw the universe. But in the Western tradition from which Christianity evolved, particularly in Europe, and the understanding of the scriptures is that the earth was the center of the universe and it should not be moved forever. Now, in the 1400s, the mid 1400s, here is a picture of Kepler. He's on the left, your left, and Galileo. They started looking at the heavens and looking at the heavens through telescopes and started trying to figure out orbits of the planets and the stars. But what a lot of people don't really understand is that both Kepler and Galileo, and even later Newton, they thought that science revealed God, okay? And they were searching for proof of God through their mathematical calculations and their theories and all the things that they were discovering. And what they discovered and got in a lot of trouble for was saying that actually it wasn't the earth at the center of the universe, it was really the sun. And they got in a lot of trouble for that. In fact, Galileo had to say, oops, I was wrong. And he was silenced and put under interdict and all kinds of stuff. And they actually only lifted that in the 1980s, the Catholic Church. But the reason why the Catholic Church was so wanting this not to get out there was that it was the first time in the West that humans used logic, reason, and science, they thought, to disprove the Bible. And that really wasn't what they were doing, but it did counter that verse that said the earth shall not be moved. And this started a very interesting cascade of saying, well, gosh, if humans can reason away the Bible, maybe this whole religion thing and God thing isn't really true. And what I think is very interesting during this, which really started the materialistic scientific evolution, which, evolution is fine, but that saying that there is no spirit, there is no God, and we can prove it with math. This was very shaking to Western civilization, but right after these things were discovered and proved and started all these fights and putting people in jail and all kinds of stuff, right as that was happening on the Americas, Guadalupe appeared. And she appeared as the Virgin of the Apocalypse, bathed in the sun, clothed in the sun, with the corona, the crown of light, the source of all light surrounding her. And not only did Juan Diego see this, she imprinted her image on the tilma over the chest of Juan Diego. So we have this new image of the universe in the West, that the sun is the center, and lots of people, including the church, thought that that disproved the existence of divinity. It disproved the Bible. And in the midst of all of that, we know that the sun is the center of the universe. But what does that mean really? What does the sun being the center of the universe really mean? And if the sun is related to the heart, what does that mean? And in the midst of all of this, we have this image that comes. It's very fascinating. So if you would like to read more about this very fascinating connection between the historic events leading up to Guadalupe, specifically this scientific revolution where people decided to look at it materialistically, but we could actually look at it spiritually, I invite you to read my book. It's very, very interesting. And you can find it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and it'll soon be on Audible. Thanks so much. See you next time.